2 Kings 10 and 17. Slaughter of the worshippers of Baal. When he arrived in Samaria, Jehu slew all who were left of Ahab's line in Samaria, doing away with them completely, according to the word the Father, Most High, who I am, spoke to Elijah. Jehu gathered all the people together and said to them, Ahab served Baal to some extent, but Jehu will serve him yet more. Now summon for me all Baal's prophets, all his servants, and all his priests. See that no one is absent, for I have a great sacrifice for Baal. Whoever is absent shall not live. This Jehu did as a ruse, so that he might destroy the servants of Baal. Jehu said further, Proclaim a solemn assembly in honor of Baal. They did so, and Jehu sent word of it throughout all Israel. All the servants of Baal came. There was no one who did not come. They came to the temple of Baal, and it was filled from wall to wall. Then Jehu said to the custodian of the wardrobe, Bring out garments for all the servants of Baal. When he had brought out the garment for them, Jehu with Jonadab, son of Rechab, entered the temple of Baal and said to the servants of Baal, Search and be sure that there is no one who served the Lord, the Most High Father, here with you, but only servants of Baal. Then they proceeded to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings. Now Jehu had stationed 80 troops outside with his warning. Any of you who let someone escape of those whom I shall deliver into your hands shall pay life for life. As soon as he finished offering the burnt offering, Jehu said to the guards and his aides, Go in and slay them. Let no one escape. So the guards and the aides put them to the sword and cast them out. Afterward they went into the inner shrine of the temple of Baal and took out the pillars of the temple of Baal. They burned the shrine, tore down the pillar of Baal, and tore down the temple of Baal, and turned it into a latrine, as it remains today. Thus Jehu destroyed Baal in Israel. Death of Jehu of Israel. However, Jehu did not desist from the sins which Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had caused Israel to commit, the golden calves at Bethel and at Dan. The Father said, Most High Father said to Jehu, Because you have done what is right in my eyes, and have done to the house of Ahab all that is in my heart, your sons to the fourth generation shall sit upon the throne of Israel. But Jehu was not careful to walk in the law of the Father, the Most High, who I am, the God of Israel, I am, with all his heart, since he did not desist from the sins which Jeroboam had caused Israel to commit. At that time the Father, Most High, I am, began to dismember Israel. Hazael defeated the Israelites throughout their territory, east of the Jordan, all the land of the Gilead and of the Gadites, Reubenites, and Manassites, from Aurora on to Hulawadi, Arnon, up from Gilead and Bashan. The rest of the acts of Jehu, with all that he did and all his valor, are recorded in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. Jehu rested with his ancestors and were buried in Samaria, and his son Jehoahaz succeeded him as king. The length of Jehu's reign over Israel was 28 years in Samaria. Chapter 11. Death of the heirs of Ahaziah of Judah. When Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she began to kill off the whole royal family. But Jehosheba, daughter of King Joram, and sister of Ahaziah, took Joash, Ahaziah's son, and spirited him away, along with his nurse, from the bedroom where the princes were about to be slain. He was concealed from Athaliah, and so he did not die. For 6 years he remained hidden with her in the house of the Father, Most High, who I am, while Athaliah ruled as queen over the land. Death of Athaliah. But in the 7th year, Jehoiada summoned the captains of the Carians and of the guards. He had them to come into the house of the Father, and made a covenant with them, exacted an oath from them in the house of the Father, Most High, who I am, and then showed them the king's son. He gave them these orders. This is what you must do. 1/3 of you who come on duty on the Sabbath shall guard the king's house. Another third shall be at the gate, sir, and the last third shall be at the gate behind the guards. You shall guard the palace on all sides, while the 2 of your divisions who are going off duty that week shall keep guard over the house of the Father for the king. You shall surround the king, each with drawn weapons, and anyone who tries to approach the guard detail is to be killed. Stay with the king wherever he goes. The captains did just as Jehoiada, the priest, commanded. Each took his troops, both those going on duty for the week and those going off duty that week, and came to Jehoiada the priest. He gave the King David's spear and quivers, which were in the house of the father, and the guards with drawn weapons lined up from the southern to the northern limit of the enclosure, surrounding the altar and the temple on the king's behalf. Then Jehoiada brought on the king's son, and put the crown and the testimony upon him. They proclaimed him king and anointed him, clapping their hands and shouting, "Long live the king!" When Athaliah heard the noise made by the people, she became before them in the house of the father. When she saw the king standing by the column, as was the custom, and the captains and trumpeters near the king, and all the people of the land rejoicing and blowing the trumpets, Athaliah tore her garments and cried out, "Treason! Treason!" Then Jehoiada the priest instructed the captains and commander of the force, "Escort her with a guard detail. If anyone follows her, let him die by the sword." For the priest had said, "She must not die in the house of the father, Most High who I am." So they seized her, and when she reached the horse gate of the king's house, she was put to death. Then Jehoiada made a covenant between the Father, Most High who I am, and the king and the people, by which they would be the father's people, and another between the king and the people. Thereupon all the people of the land went to the temple of Baal and demolished it. They shattered its altars and images completely, and slew Mattan, the priest of Baal, before the altar. Jehoiada the priest appointed a detachment for the house of the father, and took the captains, the carriers, the guards, and all the people of the land, and they led the king down from the house of the father, Most High who I am, and they came through the guards' gate to the king's house, and Joash took his seat on the royal throne. All the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet, now that Athaliah had been slain with the sword at the king's house. Kings of Judah and Israel. Chapter 12. Reign of Joash of Judah. Joash was 7 years old when he became king. In the 7th year of Jehu, Joash became king, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zebiah from Beersheba. Joash did what was right in the father's sight as long as he lived, because Jehoiada the priest guided him. Though the high places did not disappear, the people continued to sacrifice and to burn incenses on the high places. Joash said to the priests, "All the funds for sacred purposes that are brought to the house of the father, the census tax, personal redemption money, and all the funds that are freely brought to the house of the father, the priests may take for themselves, each from his own vendor. However, they must make whatever repairs on the temple may prove necessary." Nevertheless, as late as the 23rd year of the reign of King Joash, the priest had not needed repairs on the temple. Accordingly, King Joash summoned the priest Jehoiada and the other priests. He asked, "Why do you not repair the temple? You must no longer take funds from your vendors, but you shall turn them over for repairs." So the priests agreed that they would neither take funds from the people nor make the repairs on the temple. Jehoiada the priest then took a chest, bored a hole in its lid, and set it beside the altar on the right as one entered the house of the father. The priests who kept the doors would put it into all the silver that was brought to the house of the father. When they noticed that there was a large amount of silver in the chest, the royal scribe would come up with the high priest, and they would gather up and weigh all the silver that was in the house of the father. The amount thus realized they turned over to the workers assigned to the house of the Most High Father I am. They in turn would pay it to the carpenters and builders working in the house of the father, and to the masons and stone cutters, and for the purchase of the wood and hewn stone used in repairing the breaches, and for any other expenses that were necessary to repair the house of the father, Most High I am. None of the valuables brought to the house of the father were used there to make silver basins, and snuffer bowls, trumpets, or other gold or silver article. Instead, they were given to the workers, and with them they repaired the house of the Father, Most High I am. Moreover, no reckoning was asked of those who were provided with the funds to give to the workers, because they held positions of trust. The funds from reparation offerings and from purification offerings, however, were not brought into the house of the father. They belonged to the priest. Then Hazael, king of Aram, came up and attacked Gath. When he had taken it, Hazael resolved to go on to attack Jerusalem. Joash, king of Judah, took all the sacred offerings presented by his forebears, Jehoshaphat, Jehoram, and Hazael, kings of Judah, as well as his own, and all the gold there in the treasuries of the house of the father in the king's house, and sent them to King Hazael of Aram, who then turned away from Jerusalem. The rest of the acts of Joash with all that he did are recorded in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. Certain of his officials entered into a conspiracy and struck Joash down at Beth Millo. Zilzakah, son of